guys. We're going to do another episode of the Stupid Podcast,
Stupid
right?
Podcast. Hopefully my voice will not break too much. So, what is the first question? Let's get this going.
This one is in Dutch, so I'm going to translate as we go. The first question is, Julian often uses the airtime for imams. For example, max out 10, 50 seconds, 45 seconds rest, or before an exercise, 15, 30 seconds of biking, and before an exercise. Does this also is considered as Q training?
Right, so, let me explain Q training because there's different aspect to it. So Q training, the idea really is the importance of the fail. Q means quit. Is to understand the importance of the fail and to not go there. So that is not to say, you have to understand what I mean by fail. It's a switch from fight to flight. That's what the Q represents. So it's kind of a nerd joke in a way because it's the Q is for quit, but it's also from Q learning, which is, go back to my Alpha Zero podcast if you want to know what I'm talking about, which was a very interesting idea because the Q learning mimics a lot of how we learn as humans and how Alpha Zero made its progress. And I happen to believe that Q training is the foundation of proper training in the way that you never go from fight to flight. So that was a nerd joke. Well, I called it Q training. There are different ways of adapting that idea to your training. So one of them, can you get a bit closer? There you go, because you're not in the frame. One of them is the Q-1, what I call the Q-1, which is really that airdyne training that I do in the morning for 10 minutes at between 60 and 64 RPM, depending, in the morning. And so I do that in the morning. It is not a training session. It is done only to set my day. Why? Because at minute 6, I want to quit. I do the first 6 minutes, it's fine, I'm at 60 or whatever, depending on, right now, after being sick, it's more like 58, but anyway. I do that for the first 6 minutes and everything is fine. And then usually around minute 6, and it's been like every session since I started 3 months ago, I get that feeling of, all right, that's long enough. You're done, you're in shape, you've done the stuff, you're awake, everything is fine. The problem with that mentality is that this is my greatest weakness, that I see throughout the day and my life on stuff that I do. I go on talent all the way up to the moment where work is required, and then I'm like, it's fine, and then I lose interest. I do that all the time. I am someone who needs to hunt constantly. But hunting is great. You also gotta kill the prey and prepare it and then cook it, right? Otherwise you can't eat it. And so it is a huge weakness of mine to do that too much. I procrastinate because I've done 80% of the work and I'm like, all right, I'm good. No, 80% is not 100%. Sometimes you have to finish the work. So the Q-1 for me is very important because that minute 6 to 9, because 9 to 10 is easy, is where I tell myself, no, you said 10 minutes, so therefore you're going to do 10 minutes, and I become comfortable with uncomfortable. At minute 6, the reason I want to quit is because it's becoming very comfortable. The shit got real. You're at 60, now suddenly you need to pay attention, like everything is going up. You're at that moment where you get that sympathetic reaction, and you have two choices. You can either quit, which is what the voice is telling me to do, or you can start you can start having a full focus, paying really full attention to what you're doing and do the work, finish the job. And that's minutes 6 to 9 for me, where I have to focus really hard to stay at 60, not 56, not 65. So not go ape shit, but not quit either. And be present in an uncomfortable moment, which is something, if I have a choice, I'll try to go around. So that 10 minutes in the morning sets my day. And many times during those 10 minutes, I bring the stuff that I have to do that day into it so that I get to deal with it with the proper intensity. So that's a form of Q training. What the gentleman is, what's his name?
It's a woman, actually.
Oh, what the lady?
If I say it correctly, I'm sorry if I'm not. Zusha?
Well, it's in Dutch. So.
It's Dutch, but
okay, there you go.
It's an uncommon name. It's very unique and I like it.
Take that.
Actually.
And so the Q training, when it comes to 10 seconds on, 50 seconds off or whatever, is another form of the Q training. That's the one I refer usually to at Q+1. It's pure interval training. So can Q training be adapted to interval training? Yes. And the idea here would be what? Would be that you have to get an interval. So if I'm 15 seconds or like 30 seconds on and a minute off, that 30 seconds I'm going to try to say at, I don't know, 75, let's say 80 RPM or whatever for 30 seconds, blast completely. The key is that I cannot, the key is, it depends a little bit for people, but you will see that when you reach that fight to flight, you have a tendency to zoom out, to zone out, and to leave the place mentally. The reason is that you do not want to be present anymore in that uncomfortable moment. So you either zoom out mentally or you start enduring. So you see that on people. They start to go, they start to not, look focused on a moment. You can tell they're not focusing, and they're just enduring the pain. They're just taking in the pain, but their mind is completely gone. And that's a fail. That's exactly what I don't want you to do. So I want you to do an interval, let's say 30 seconds, but to stay within a range where you can focus fully and enjoy the pain for a full 30 seconds at max off. But at no point can you zone out. It's very, very, very important. And the aspect of Q training there would be what? So you're going to go run under failure. So you never reach technically the mental failure during that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do sets up until your mind is telling you, okay, I'm done. And what I want you to do at that moment is to do one more set. But on that one more set, I want you to give me 100% focus. It's going to be very, very hard, obviously, because you already mentally think you're done. I want one more set at your full capacity physically and mentally. That means that you're going to have to stay present at that moment to your fullest for one more set. And that's the hardest thing to do. What you're going to learn with that set is what the fight is like, because your mind is going to want to drift off. 30 seconds can be very long. On an airline can be very, very long. And your mind is going to want to fuck off. It's going to want to go somewhere, and you're not going to let it. You're going to stay within yourself, into the bike, getting used to being that uncomfortable for 30 seconds at your full blast. That's how you're going to learn to stay in fight and not go into flight. So when to use which? Well, like for example, me, it's if you're an endurance athlete type mentality, so bodybuilding, more like longer workouts, you want to do the Q+1 interval training. If you're a sprinter, powerlifter, pure strength athlete, you want to do the Q-1. That's how we're going to split. So for example, a bodybuilder is an endurance athlete. If you look, it's 16, 20, 30 sets over a year to get results, which reminds you more of the endurance aspect. Whereas a sprinter is someone who pays attention to every single step that he does, just like a powerlifter will pay attention to where his hands are, where, like their hips are on the squat, how to do this, how to do that, the setup of their feet. They're basically paying a lot of attention exactly to what they're doing on each set. So that's the whole thing. Like in powerlifting, each sets matter. In bodybuilding, all sets matter. Type of thing. So I say powerlifting, but it's strongman or stuff like that, the more like the strength based. So depending on that, you're going to learn the type of fight that you usually give up on. So it can be minute 6, I'm like, oh, whatever. Or it can be, by the way, minute 1 to 4, where you have a hard time getting started. That Q-1 will be very good for that. If you're an endurance athlete, the fight mode is usually the one that is harder to get to. So that's what we're going to use the Q training for, which means you're going to let's say 30 seconds on, 90 seconds off or whatever, interval training, but you're going to push that interval training and do one more set than you think you're capable of, but never, ever, ever going toward the zoning out, which is the fail. So if you're at that stage where you just go like, I don't know how many sets, maybe I can do more, maybe you're zoning out. You already fail. Like you'll know it. You'll do like set 4 or 5, you'll go like, all right, I can't do this with a maximum mental intensity anymore. And that's when you do one more and then you stop. You do one more, you don't do 5 more, because the 5 more, the only thing you're proving is to everybody else that you're a badass. I got news for you, no one cares. I think it's a very important point that we all need to make, is like you all sometimes in the gym training to impress no one. Like you need to know this, like no one cares. Like that's the rule in gyms. people care about themselves. You know, when they think they're looking at you, actually it's because you're in front of the mirror and they were looking at it and you block the view. That's just the rule in gyms, right? So whenever you want to do 2 more sets to impress the peanut gallery, trust me, no one cares. So do it for yourself. Know exactly where that moment is like, I cannot generate another set. Do 1 max set where you push everything you have and then you're done. And then you done with that workout. Leave. The point is to learn to stay in fight and never go into flight. So if you tell me, oh, I did 15 sets of that stuff, I know you went most likely 10 sets too far because you did not do 15 sets at a maximum physical and mental capacity. That is not true. You're pacing. And so the problem with that is that you're enduring and it's a flight mode and that only leads to crash. That's why you're so tired all the time. You're in freeze. So Q training is more that idea of understanding the fail, and the fail is what switches you from fight to flight and what we try to avoid at all costs. I hope I answered the question.
So answer is...
No, well, that's what all of that I just said.
Exactly, so the answer is yes.
If you want to put it like that. I think my explanation was better, but we can go with yes. All right,
Sure.
And so next episode, next questions. Thank you guys.
Thank you.